opinions on who has the upper edge. I think towards the later stage of the playoffs, when it comes down to most of the MPL regions, IDPH, MY, it's usually, it starts off as blue side dominant, but then as we get to the grand finals, the lower bracket finals, it starts to actually favor the red side. Maybe because the red side gets more respect bans out of the way. Maybe you're more reactive in a way. But still, right now for HomBois, it's all about taking away the hero for Bebex, which is going to be the Moskov, something that allows him to scale up to the late game, but also participate in the early fights with that Spear of Destruction. And obviously with IHC, you got to respect that team fighting prowess. Taking away this Fairness, I think, is a very, very good option. But as we see these two bans, we can also see that IHC have definitely done their homework. HomBois were able to dominate their games in MPL Malaysia with the Loyi, with the chip.
And now we got a game fact here. Zorn is the only player to have competed in every season of MPL MY. Again, just MPL MY because I believe in the Philippines, they have their own version of Zorn where I believe it was few that competed in every single MPL seasons. But either way, we have finished up the ban here where HomBois have a focus on the mid lane, banning out the Faramis as well as the Valentina. I see they ban out the Loyi as well. We've seen a favorite pick coming in from Udil, which is the Farsa. I wonder if that's going to be one of the picks that's going to be picked up. IHC, the final ban is going to be the Harif. Now we got to see HomBois. Are they going to prioritize the Roger, where yesterday we saw a lot of Roger picks? Angela is open as well. But again, Angela is not really a Zorn hero. And this is a Claude. A Claude first pick. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, not a big fan, honestly, looking at, my previous data for HomBois has got to be the grand finals. And in the grand finals, it's always nets on a late game hero, a hero that scales, that actually loses them the game. Like you said, it's all about that early game. And for IHC, they're already banking on the early game from the start, especially seeing that Claude pick. They might go and pick up the Turizla, go maybe for a jungle early, and then they'll pick up the gold lane. It's probably going to be Roger, but even now, I would say picking up a Roger would be solid.
I would feel like because you already see the Claude, you can go for the Roger if you want to bully the lane, but now that you know it's a Claude, you can pick up something that scales, something like an Atan if you want, but now that they pick up the Turizla as well as the Ling scales up pretty well, it kind of gives pressure onto HomBois. If HomBois doesn't pick up the Angela, it gives IHC the option for themselves to pick up the Angela. So HomBois, they got to consider this as a threat, right? Angela is still very, very strong in combination with the Ling, as well as if they pick up a Roger, the Roger is going to be pretty good with the Angela as well. So again, pick up the Angela now or risk giving it over to IHC.
That's a big gamble to play if you are actually going to leave the Angela open. We know how lethal the Ling in itself is in the current meta with the Sky Piercer, with him being able to farm up, and even without the purple buff, some of those changes to the energy leaves you kind of open to go for farm still and scale up in the lane. But it's going to be the Vexana pick for HomBois, and they'll leave open the Angela. They'll go for the Edith instead. IHC have a chance to go for the Angeling with the Turizla. Amazing setup already, but will they go for it is the question. Maybe HomBois know something we don't.
Yeah, because here's the thing, the Edith can still be flexed into the EXP, so I'm really looking at HomBois, and this is one of those drafts where they can pick up the Cho and Nolan as the last pick unless IHC bans it out. IHC, if they don't pick up the Angela here, it's going to get banned out, but it looks like they're going to pick up the Ruby. For now, looking at the drafts here, IHC, they got a lot of crowd control with having 2 fighters on their field. For HomBois, a lot of crowd control as well, but it's coming from the Vexana as well as the Edith. We still don't know where this Edith is going, but if I was IHC, I might ban out the Nolan. Because Nolan is one of Chibi's favorite hero here, and again, I would respect it because he, on that Nolan, was able to get the highest gold per minute overall.
I was about to say that, right? I mean, the 1,100 GPM, and just like that, we do see the ban coming in on the second phase, which is already weird usually when you go to see a HomBois game, especially when the Nolan's up for grabs. I think I saw a reaction video of Chibi when the Nolan was open. He was already celebrating as the Nolan was left open in the first phase, but it seems HomBois have adjusted to that, right? They're not really going to go for these prio picks.
So
they'll
maybe
just
Julian?
go to what the team needs. That's the synergy that they want to play with, and yeah, the Julian becomes a good option, but at this point, do they need a bit more frontline is my question, LaFell, or do they want to stack up on the damage output? Because even yesterday, we did see a few patterns here and there where damage output compositions, teams that can all rely on 4 or more damage dealers, tend to do a bit better in the skirmishing meta.
I feel like they kind of do need a little bit more damage, because looking at the draft, it looks like they want to scale towards the mid game. This is one of the drafts where you can give the Claude double farm, giving him the gold lane as well as the mid, because the Vexana with her passive can clear the lane very, very fast. So it is an option to give double lane towards the Claude. But again, with that, it becomes the question of Chibi is very good for... Oh.
What do we talk about, man? You pick the Leomord, you lose in MPL Malaysia, but maybe that's because it's a best of 5, a best of 7. But in the case of a best of 1,
it has been buffed.
And the Temporal Rain technically could be used as well.
Let me just say, when we brought out the Leomord, I did not thought it would be a conversation inside the draft. Let me just be clear.
Yeah.
I didn't thought it would be banned.
I thought, you know, for MPL Malaysia reasons, I was like, all right, maybe don't go for the Leomord. But for the best of 1, I think that's something that they could use as a curveball. And for IHC, even if HomBois don't want to go for it, I think it's a good ban right now. They need to get rid of these cheese picks that can kind of like stomp on their own compositions, because in a composition like this they really want to win that initial burst. And the Leomord in that skirmish, once he gets with the Steed, it'll be very, very difficult. That's an Avaria ban too, by the way, from the side of HomBois, so eliminating some of the vision control that they can get, but they go straight for the Grok, and that means the Ruby will actually be going to
EXP. Hey, wait.
The gold lane.
The gold lane, yeah.
Or
mid?
Mid?
No, I've seen Terizla mid.
I've seen Terizla mid too. Okay, so it's a very flexible draft for IHC, and maybe the red side, that's why they've gone for it.
And that's... So HomBois might need more damage here, right? Looking at all these tanky guys. So it looks like the plan for IHC is to slow the game down, because imagine if this is a Terizla mid, how are you gonna invade? And we gotta remember how Zorn likes to play. He will go inside your jungle, trying to slow down your jungler, but if you're going up against a Grok and a Terizla mid duo, you can't really do that. So maybe the draft coming in from IHC is that they understand how HomBois plays, they understand how Zorn plays, so they want to slow it down. So now the Roger as well as the Minotaur gets picked up. The Roger, again, it has been nerfed, his passive damage onto max HP, but I feel like it's still good. The only thing is, I wonder if it's going to be enough to really destroy this heavy front line coming in from IHC.
Yeah, I think it's all about adapting to the odds that they have and the composition that they have against them at this point, because for IHC, they have a lot of lockdown, a lot of re-engage and disengage too, and they can play around with the CC, deal more damage. My big question is, if the Terizla does go into the mid lane, they might need some sort of a hyper carry maybe, because
Natan?
Initially, yeah, probably something like a Natan, but it does seem like he is hovering over the Beatrix. That would make sense for Bebex especially. He loves playing that Beatrix pick, but they go for the Pharsa instead. So it is going to be Ruby Gold. They're going to play with the Pharsa as that mage in the mid lane. They needed a little bit more magical damage, but as you can see from the pick rate and the win rate here, it's been picked up twice, and it has a 0% win rate. IHC with a very brawly composition that relies heavily on a snowball, but technically they can still and look to scale with the lane.
The only thing is, I'm looking at the lanes here. Gold lane, Claude going up against Ruby is kind of uninteractive, where the Claude is just going to farm out, and he's not going to be in lane long enough. He's going to go somewhere else. But then when it comes to the team fight, it's probably going to be on the Claude to use his BMI to get onto the far side and use the Blazing Duet to disrupt her using the Feather S-Strike. So looking at the draft here, a very interesting draft coming in from IHC as well as HomBois, where it's kind of going away from their usual style. But either ways, we're jumping into the very first game of Group B in day number 2 of Wild Cards.
Based on my experience though, LaFell, it does seem like, you know, for Bebex onto the Ruby, I would say, you know, on paper, it would make sense that it's going to be a non-lane, right? For the Claude, just utilize the range, go for the farm, use the Battle Mirror image whenever Bebex walks up. But the Ruby is very, like, it's so deceiving. You think she's a melee hero that can't really poke you down, but the range of that passive is quite massive, and you will be able to bully your opponent usually. So as long as IHC are able to funnel some resources into the bottom lane, not really, you know, gold or XP, but mainly just some pressure relieved off of that lane would be really good. But Ethan, starting the top, forced to flicker early on, not even the first minute, and now he will pop that power of nature to escape.
I would say that's big. It's a good thing that he uses Flicker there, because it's still under 2 minutes, so extra damage in the jungle. Forbit taking quite a lot of damage, and Zorn is in the middle of things.
The Terrifier onto 2 members. Zorn still able to flicker out. Chibi looking for the kill now, maybe even looking for the invade as Forbit rotates back in towards the jungle to release some of the pressure away from Ling. But in the bottom lane, Nets is doing a very good job at just suppressing this force of the Ruby in the gold lane.
One small thing that's a little bit unfortunate, I think Chibi was absorbing one minion coming in from the mid, so perhaps Udil is going to take a little bit more time before he gets his level 4. But again, it's a small thing, probably wouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Zorn finds Xora, and Xora is already level 4. Zorn is already taking quite a bit of damage.
Doesn't have the flicker. That is a very important thing to note down, as Turtle will spawn in 13 seconds, but it's giving the Warcry, by the way, for the Roger. And for Xora, it's the QC, not the Warcry we're used to. Zorn walking up, getting knocked up. Ethan doesn't have the flicker. Now that's even Xora jumping in, but Chibi does a whole lot of damage. Already took the purple buff earlier. Xora will be able to walk back into the purple buff. Both teams not setting up for the turtle.
I feel like Chibi has the right idea here. You got to make sure that IHC eSports is always like below 50% health, though, but Zorn taking a lot of damage. Looks like he's going to get taken down. No, he still survives.
And the Eternal Guard actually turns it around. That's the penalty zone, but it will not be able to save Forbid in the mid lane. First blood over to HomBois.
I was going to say, HomBois, their idea is to make sure that everyone coming in from IHC eSports have very low HP before contesting anything to make the threat of Chibi actually going in with the light compounds being very, very high. Xora, he still wants it. Supply gets it.
Mid-air, he catches him with the onward, and Xora is going to be bursted down by Udil. Now the Turtle taking Chibi, walking up into the enemy jungle, invading already, trying to take as much as he can to punish Xora.
Looks like with this draft, HomBois is able to pick up the tempo. IHC eSports, having a jungler, a Ling as the jungle, you want to make sure that you're able to farm up as safely as you can. Looks like he's having a little bit of trouble, but even so, in terms of the gold, it's only 500 gold difference, and it does look like Xora is going for a Berserker Fury first item, so he's not going to be that far behind.
Walk up again, Forbid to be knocked up. Ethan used the power of nature earlier. Bebex has rotated, but in the early game, I can't help but say, for Bebex at least, he's kind of failed to utilize that pressure. Udil on a barrier, not able to really go for anything. Bebex with I'm offended on the two members right in the middle. Fury the wall charge with the feather airstrike gets comboed together. Xora with attempts to blaze, dumping into this fight, but Suppot will also rotate much quicker. And now see the Bebex caught all alone, running away. That's gutting him down slowly but surely with one last battle mirror image to the front to take him down.
I don't know whether that is worth it or not for IHC eSports. That was a good engage. Make sure you're doing something and not nothing. But the fact that you gave Nats an assist as well as a kill makes it so that he gets his Trinity item faster. And this is why I was questioning the Ruby going up against the Claude. Even though, yes, like you said, having more range is going to be good, but Nats on his Claude, he's very careful. When he's using this scaling kind of marksman, he doesn't trade all that much, and it looks like it translates into this game. Replayception!
Replayception. This is the replay earlier in that skirmish. It was such a good layer of CC from IHC, but HomBois just played it well. They knew only 2 of their members were caught there. Looks like Suppot's going to be taking some damage, but he does still have the Primal Wrath, and IHC will not decide to commit under that tier 1.
And again, one thing that you got to take note was that during that replay, we saw Nats actually controlling his range very, very well. Just make sure that his positioning is good. As I say that, he's standing face-to-face against Bebex.
You know,
talk about timing.
Yeah, maybe you don't try to predict things.
Yeah,
but you taught me this at M3, man.
True. Maybe I should stop talking.
Good barrier. You want to try to slow the pace of the game down because HomBois at this point with, hey, actually, if we take a look at the gold lead, it's not that big. You can terrify with the Eternal Guard. Udil being able to chunk Ethan, but he has the power of nature, walks up now as Xora does some damage. Suppot not going for the armor just yet. Pops the Primal Wrath, that's a wall charge into the back line. That's a steal from Xora. As Suppot deals with the Terizla, Ethan in the back, and to be ran down by Chibi as Xora gets terrified mid-air again, knocked up and taken down by the hammer of Zorn. Now walking up with a 2-man knockup, team 4, IHC, they'll still be able to get a trade off of that, but it's 3 for 1.
Yeah, but again, we talked about this, how both teams, they really like to brawl. Even if for the first part, you see like, oh, this might not be a good trade, but still, the team will go for it because in terms of mechanics, they're amazing. Bebex was able to steal that one. Chibi getting a turret up top. Now we're starting to see a little bit of difference coming in from the gold. Now it's 1,000 gold lead for HomBois, but considering it's 7-3, it's not that big of a gold lead when you compare it to the amount of kills as well as the amount of gold generated. HomBois, they need to make sure that they start to take more turrets so that they can start, well, I would say choking Xora out of farm, and then you can really get your win condition, because as of right now, looking at the EXP earned, the Ling is still earning quite a lot of EXP. He's not being stopped all that well.
Look at this. Just as you say that, right, Zorn tries to stop it alone as the Minotaur, because nobody was seen on the map. Now Onward actually going to go in, Eternal Guard as well. The Forbid is able to escape, but gets caught in Earth Shatter, as now Supply gets caught in the Udil, dies in the back somehow. A blazing away from Nets, is now it's going to be Minus Fury to knock them off. Aizen with a desperate penalty zone, and Ethan will be able to walk away. They'll sacrifice Aizen and Forbid, and it will only give HomBois a bigger lead here. In the 6th minute of the game, Nets Battle Mirror Image to the front, trying to go for a bit more damage to pressure Ethan. But as you said, right now it's not that big of a lead despite the kills.
Yeah, it's really not. The good thing about HomBois is that they're giving the kills over to the damage dealers. Chibi, Udil, Nance has been joining quite a lot of fights. Chibi is actually getting a lot of gold because he's getting the turrets as well.
One level lead for the Roger already. Sapat goes for Onward, now Earth Shatter. Knocking Zixora up, goes for the Primal Wrath defensively here to escape from some of that damage, and Forbid has already used up the Feathered Airstrike.
Yeah, but the thing is, right now for IHC, they stole the previous one. Looks like it's not going to be stolen this time. IHC, I feel like they understand they got to slow down a bit. They got to get Zixora onto 2 items. And HomBois, I feel like they got to pick up the pace a little bit, because if you give room for the Ling to farm up, it might be one of those things that you regret in the long run.
This time, though, they've been able to pick up a turret on neutral objective. Ethan, he's taking that much damage as a frontliner. Just up against Udil, by the way. This is the Vixana, and he's doing so much burst damage early on. Zora is still, trying to look for that farm, but he is 1 level down. In the late game, even if they do get to the later stage, right? Let's say 10-minute, perhaps a 1v1 here, but Roger versus Ling. Who actually scales better in this kind of matchup?
I feel like whoever has the Sky Piercer has an unfair advantage. Chibi now having the Endless Battle so that he has a little bit more sustain. It looks like he already used a Retribution onto Ethan.
You can see that damage coming down with the Electric Pounce. Zora almost gets one-shot. Zorn tries to break the dash, but he doesn't even need to. Chibi just guns him down. What was that damage?
I mean, okay, we asked the question, and the player's like, got you, fam, bet. I'm going to show you how much on-hit damage I deal. And again, I have no idea whether Chibi has the Sky Piercer or not, but 1 hit, and that was like, what, 40% of the HP? I believe that damage was coming from the Endless Battle, and it looks like he does have the Sky Piercer, and interestingly enough, he has the War Axe as well. So like War Axe is the first item. Interesting build here coming in from Chibi.
Wow, I'm still kind of stunned by that damage.
Was that maximum stacks on the War Axe and the Endless Battle proc? I don't think that's maximum stacks on War Axe.
No, I really don't, right? Because it was a fight that Zixora kind of forced with Ethan as well. So I don't think he had a lot of time to stack up the War Axe. Still, incredible damage now as Zixora goes to his own purple buff. And even here, it's a bit scary for him. Walking to the purple buff as Zorn just screens him, gets that information, and the team plays accordingly. Now they're just back up in their own jungle. They know that they need the Lord. They don't need to go for any crazy, unnecessary skirmishes at this point. But Nets is kind of unkillable, right? I mean, at this point, even if you dash towards him, this is why the quad is so good against Assassins. You blink out. You don't dash out.
And Nets already completed, I believe, his Trinity item because he just completed his Corrosion Sight. Chibi is 4 kills. His 4 kills away from getting the maximum amount of stacks. I believe he's 2 stacks away from getting 10% lethality, and at 10% is going to be a big game changer. HomBois, they're going to be able to get this Lord uncontested. IHC eSports doesn't have a way to enter the Lord pit, but in the meantime, Zixora understands he needs the farm, so he goes to the side lanes.
Yeah, and he tries to go for a turret there. He does get a trade, but a Lord in the 10th minute of the game, for this kind of composition, usually you would say, for the first Lord, it's not really deadly, but if you take a look at IHC, they're lacking the marksman. They don't have that marksman. They have the Feather Airstrike. I'm not sure if that can actually save them here.
I believe it's deadly because we got to talk about the Lord having 30% more HP now, and you got lethality on this Roger. So any kind of engage, there's a chance for a wipeout.
And your wave clear is also questionable for IHC, right? Like I mentioned, only Forbid can really go for it, but he has to choose whether he wants to use the Feather Airstrike to some of these members or to the Lord. And I think both are the wrong answer at this point.
Yeah, but personally for me, I would say try to go for the members because, again, 10-minute Lord you can still handle, but the amount of damage coming in from HomBois is a little bit too much. You got to be very, very careful. Sapat not able to hit his Onward.
Ethan taking a whole lot of damage. Zorn looking forward, gets a knock on Bebex in the front of it all, trying to go for the GB, but it's going to be the frontliners completely melted down as Sapat walks up with the Flicker as well. Like pounds from Chibi, together with the electrifying damage. Now it's going to be a desperate Tempest Ablaze. The Lord might as well just be called the Deadly Lord, because in the 11th minute, they've been able to stomp through IHC.
And just like that, HomBois was able to win the first match of the Group B stage with a lot of damage coming in from the Roger. And looks like the Ruby Goaling going up against the Claude was not able to stop this Claude. The Claude was still able to farm as fast as possible.